Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, everybody, we are back, and I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Tom Smith. Tom, you are the owner of P. Thomas Smith Counseling. You have been doing this for a long time. You are a Marine.
Yes.
You have a passion for helping people, and welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks, man. I love being here.
Hey, you set something up really cool. You got a two-parter coming in this show and the next. Tell me if you want to introduce this two-parter you got, because you got a lot of information that you got to get through. So tell us about your topic. It's going to be a great one.
Well, in our previous shows that we've been talking about, we've really been looking hardcore at PTSD, depression, and things like that that's going on veterans, which goes on in society today, regardless of who you are, how old you are, what color you are, what race you know what I mean? It's human nature. So because we live in such a trying time now here in America, our setup from the last show, you asked me, what is it that you want to talk about in the next segment? And I just wanted to take a snapshot of society today and what's going on based on science, based on, and always I preface everything. I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm not red, I'm not blue. I'm an American, I'm a veteran, I serve my country. And I only speak truths. Everything that I come up with, I don't make it up. I'm not that smart. I steal it, man. You know what I mean? I'm a researcher. I read everything and study everything, especially human nature and things.
That's what I'm saying. Human nature. I mean, that's your bread and butter, man. Because you worked with so many people doing so many different things. You really are educated in this way, and that's why I'm psyched about your two-parter here. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, bro, we're good. We're on the same page always. So setting this up, what I wanted to do is catching them up. Our last segment, I talked about moral injury, which is it's our moral compass. It's our soul. And I'm starting to, interestingly enough, read and see lots of different information about, our souls being stolen as a society in America. And it doesn't really take root. It doesn't really catch on because that is not the left's, they don't want anybody to understand what they're really doing, but that is the truth of the matter. So the reason why I wanted to get into this in a two-part, when I started putting the show together, I realized very quickly, I'm like, this is not going to be a 23-minute show, because I want to do some backstory before we really get into the dissection of as far as what's going on in the nation. Dealing with our moral injury, our soul, because it really is truly through strategic planning being stolen from us. And even as I sit here, I'm processing, because that's how I do. I don't write anything down, man. I'm ADD. I couldn't remember it if I wrote it down. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
This is all out of my heart and my mind that I process as I go through. So just so you know that. So
okay.
Get
into the mind. The mind.
ADD, man, it's a blessing and a gift. We can't remember our last names, but buddy, when we're onto something, we're onto it.
Well said.
What I want to talk about is human nature.
Yeah.
First off, so my question to you, and it's not a loaded question, it's not a right or wrong question. I'm asking everyone watching it. Do we think we as human beings are born and created with good or bad within us based on what you're seeing in our society today? What would be your reaction, Casey?
It's a great question, man. And I would say until the age of maybe 4 or 5, I think we're born good, and we're born with great intention, but somehow along the line, life kind of chips away at us. And that's what causes trauma and all that stuff. And it ends up where we're hurting each other like we are now. And I'd love to hear what you think about that. I would turn around and ask you the same thing. That's what I think. What do you think?
No. And Casey just closed the show. Bada boom. That was the information. Awesome, dude. Thank you, Casey, for doing that today. We'll see you next week on part 2.
But do you agree with any of that?
Bro, you're so dead on. And that's why I was really, when I started getting into this, because I want to know. I know that the word says that we are created in with a sinful nature, which means that we're really good at sinning. And I mean, I know I was in the day, you know what I mean? But let's look at science. What does science say? Because that's where I always go for the answers. So I'm going to go through like 9 scientific studies. And dude, where did you come up with the kid thing at? How did you learn that?
I,
Was that in a
just
bar
life.
somewhere you were talking about it one night?
Probably, probably. Yeah, yeah. But
But
I
that's
think, but in the beginning, we're okay. It's just, but I want to hear these studies. I'm psyched to hear what you think about this, because that's just in a round thing. That's what I think. We're okay, but we get chipped away at, and
that's where we're going.
good.
So
I want to hear it.
great setup. So what I did was there was a study done by a university, and they started with babies, 6 months old. And they started doing these studies because babies can just at that age, they can start to see colors and shapes. They can't really process anything. But to walk you through the baby through the toddler stage, one of the things we came up with, we naturally help each other. That's number one. If you're ever out and about and you open the door for somebody, or you help lift something, or you do anything to help another person, that is innately built inside of our DNA to be helpers. I'm from Montana. And if you go back in the 1800s, we still have the morals and the ethics that we did in the 1800s, because we are a rural people. And to this day, it blows me away. Here's an example, Casey. In one of the towns here in Montana last year, we got so much snow, the entire city had to shut down. Farmers with their tractors from the whole county ascended on the streets and cleared the entire city, their little town, so that way people can survive. You don't hear that. You don't hear that anywhere. When we run out of hay, when other states run out of hay, we will ship it to them at no cost to take care of other people. This is still our morals here in Montana. Nobody move here. You stay right where you're at.
No transplant.
We love you. Yeah, man. You could drive through and visit. Go ride a bull, but you gotta go. Anyway. I'm sorry, man.
No, I'm with you, man. That's awesome that they did that. That's so cool.
Oh, I love it here. People are so kind and good to one another. You're a New Yorker. Well, that's another story.
It is. It is big time. Pennsylvania, which is just an hour and a half away. You see a difference in people. They say hello to you, and they'll help you a lot more than they would on Long Island or New York City. I'm not knocking where I live, but that's just the truth. And where you live, yeah. I can only imagine the sense of community and how people help each other out.
My brother's from the East Coast. I'm originally from Virginia, and he used to drive up and down the East Coast. He was a trucker, and he said when he came out here, he was almost jumping into the floorboard because everywhere he went, people were like, "Hey," he thought they were raising guns or something going to get him. He's like, "I've never said hi more in my life." Everywhere he went, "Hey, hey." So his joke was running around the house at night going, "Hey, hey," and I'm like, dude, this is the way we live here.
People are nice to you. Wow.
Yeah, that don't even know you. So rewards have nothing to do with it. We like to take care of people and help people. And in this study of these, now they're toddlers, like you say, 3 to 5 year olds, they would have these groups of kids working together, and they would tell one group, "Hey, if you do this, we're going to reward you." And this other group, they didn't even have a reward. The ones that got a reward didn't even care. They didn't even really care about the reward. They were more concerned about helping and sharing with the other kids. So it's in our DNA to help people with not expecting. Now we're talking about healthy mental people here. Mm-hmm. We crave authentic friendships. Now I know I can only imagine you being a celebrity, how many friends you have that you don't even really know their name. I have so many dudes and what's ups, I can't even tell you, man, because I can't remember. But we love that real, true, authentic friend, because we can share our most inner thoughts and our being and our emotions, and we can trust them, and that's built over time. But it's interesting, right? That's something that we really truly desire. So think about the people that do not have those relationships. Bookmark that. I'm going to talk about that later on.
Okay.
So the next one we're going to go into is we're also meant to fall in love. When I was younger, I was, dude. You know what I'm saying? I had it down. This is a true story, Casey. This is a true story. In 5th grade, my teacher wrote a note home to my mom and said, "Tommy's problem is he's in love." My mother wrote a note back to the teacher, said, "Tommy's always been in love." I love her, man.
It's a beautiful thing.
Saying? But that's we're created that way. We're created that way to to love, to meet somebody, to fall in love with, to share our life with. And I thought that was a beautiful thing.
I do too.
We genuinely value honesty. All my life, whether it be personally or professionally, when I would start meeting with people, as you can tell, I'm super blunt. I don't really have any filters. I don't know how. Um, but people are always like, after a certain period of time, like, man, dude, you're so honest. I mean, you just tell it like it is. I love that. Especially in relationships with females, they're like, wow, I can't believe how honest you are. Most guys are just full of crap. And I'm
It's
like,
refreshing.
it is, but I don't know any other way.
It's awesome.
But we as human beings, we really, really appreciate that in others. But unfortunately, for people that have things they want to hide, they can't really do that.
Gotcha.
Humanity loves hugs. I'm down. You?
Yeah, yeah, always.
You know, I'm any old time. We're good because what happens is it releases an endorphin in our brain that makes us feel good. There is a chemical reaction that happens when we do get a hug. So these people that run around going, "I had a really bad day, honey. I need a hug." That's scientifically a fact that we actually really do. It lowers blood pressure. It lowers stress. So that so for all the guys that want a cool new pickup line, instead of in the bar, be like, "Yo, I heard in science that we need to hug because we're gonna feel better."
It's scientific. Yeah, I'm with you on that human contact thing, man. Sometimes
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's so huge. Smiling is a human instinct. They did a study with children that were blind and children that could see, and they put them through the exact same type of format of whatever the I don't want to say experiment, but whatever it was that they were doing. The blind children smiled just like the children that could see because it's a natural instinct in us. And they always say, when you see somebody smile, because it does something to us genetically that makes us feel good, and it's kind of like an acceptance. It's like, hey, people look at you and smile. It means a lot to the human being, the nature of who we are. Humans are extremely resilient. Casey, this one, when I read this one, I had to just pause for a second. Let me read this. Even though all of us have lives ups and downs, humans prove to be resilient. Over and over again, we are hardwired to be able to move past trauma. We've been talking about trauma this whole time. I didn't even know. That's why I love to read and study. I didn't even know that we are actually hardwired to be able to overcome the trauma that we have. And we've talked about numerous times
Yeah.
how to remap the brain and how to go through different therapies and things like that, that our body is naturally adapted and hardwired to be able to move past trauma. So those people that are stuck and that are watching this, let me just say, you don't have to be stuck. You're hardwired. You just have to find the help for these people to help you get through this.
And the people that you've helped and people you've dealt with, can you imagine how resilient they are from going through what they have? And with you working for them, they've seen the worst of the worst, and so have you. So I think that your statement is 100% on point.
I just, that was probably the most exciting part of my day is reading that, because it's like I preach, trauma and getting help with it. So that was just really super. Um, we're naturally giving. And I've used this. I've talked to tens of thousands of kids in high schools, and I always ask them, how many of you guys love Christmas? You love getting presents? And they're like, it's like, how many of you guys love going shopping for that special man? They're like, yeah, me too. Because we're naturally hardwired to give. And because, again, it makes us feel worthy. It brings joy by bringing joy into the other people that we give to. So these are all human traits that scientific studies have proven. And what I love about it is, like you were saying at the beginning of the show, where you're so spot on with children, before we get old enough into preteens, when our whole life turns upside down, we are naturally a good person, man, woman, red, yellow, black, white. We are innately good people. So what on earth has happened to our society? So there goes the feel good part of the show. Now we're going to move into where we're at and what's going on within our, and this, Casey, this portion of it, I've struggled whether I want to go down this rabbit hole or not, because I have no agenda. I'm
Right.
not left. I'm not right. I'm just a person that researches and presents studied information. So, because we get to do a two-part, this is going to be the setup of looking at who we are in our country today.
Okay.
In the 20s and 30s, there was a country that was coming out of ruin of World War One, and there was a person that had become, he was nothing, absolutely nothing, and decided that he wanted to become powerful. He wanted to be the supreme ruler. He took a nation that was not even a decade out of World War One's destruction, and in the 30s, Germany was the elite and culture arts of the world. This was the supreme, if you will, society. This man who wanted more than anything to become powerful. I'm a history buff, by the way. This is how I know this. I didn't just read it. I've known this, for 25 years.
Mhm.
Started to move into a position of power, challenging any and everyone that came against him, brought a group of people surrounding him to protect him and his message. Anyone that stood up against him once he gained the power died. That's just the way it was. Back then, Night of the Long Knives, Hitler went out with his henchmen and they killed all of these people in their homes, bro, because and the next day everybody was like, what's going on? He stood up and said, I did it. Now, if you don't want to follow me, you will find your fate.
Wow.
And he started in the Thousand Year Reich. Now, this is what's so important. And I want people to understand this because I am sick and tired of hearing these ignorant people. And that's not a mean, derogatory thing. Ignorance just means lack of knowledge. That's
Yeah.
all it is. So
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not being mean.
You're not
They
insulting.
just
It's
don't,
just
no, they don't know.
right.
I'm so sick of hearing them go, Trump's Hitler, Trump's Hitler. So these are the people I'm trying to educate. Okay. Let me explain to you Hitler in a nutshell. His game plan was, hey, I'm going to build this nation out of the ruins so people will love me. So he starts building all of these factories and gets all these people to work, and everybody starts to think, wow, this is the guy. So he wants supreme power. He starts to move into the society of his people mentally, psychologically. So he's building all these things, and he knows it's going to be for war because he wasn't supposed to do this based on the treaty. So he's doing all this, and the people start to think, wow, we go from being hungry to having a job to having money to having a house. Wow, Heil Hitler, right? And so he's building his war machine in the background while everybody's celebrating him. He had he was incredibly mentally ill, massive drug addict. And so he was just empowered by himself in a messiah type. Do you
What's
understand?
that?
So
What is that? Messiah type.
messiah messiah is like Messiah, our Jesus. We will follow you.
Okay. Okay. I got
We'll
you.
follow, yeah, we will follow you because we believe in you.
Got it.
So that's what he wanted. And so, because he's building a thousand-year Reich, what does he do? He starts going in and bringing in teenagers, the Hitler Youth, and he starts indoctrinating them, taking them from their parents, young kids, taking them from their parents, to bring them into his training, his schools. You follow me?
Yeah.
He's separating the children from the parents, indoctrinating them. And there are lots of documentation of the kids standing up and singing songs to Hitler of being their Messiah.
Oh,
So
my God. That's sick.
yeah. So what's happening is he's taking over his people. He's stealing their soul. So they have no rights. They have no moral compass. They just believe in him blindly. That was his entire makeup. They bring in Goebbels, the little mouse of himself, to begin to they just squashed every type of information that was out there, and everything came directly from Goebbels, which was Hitler's little pit. Anyway, That's what his job was. They brainwashed the people, stole the soul of the nation to follow him blindly, all in the process trying to become the ruler of the world. And in his psycho, incredibly mentally ill mentality of drug addiction, did you know the Germans were the ones that first founded meth? Did
No,
you
I
know that?
didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's what he was
because
doing. He was doing that stuff.
oh, all of it, man. Just concoctions. I mean, when you
Wow.
would see him do these great big speeches, this dude was whacked out big time.
Okay.
So anyway, this is what he did to his people, leading them into blindly a war that came to their destruction. Does any of that sound familiar today?
Yes.
There's a snapshot of our government today. I'm not left or right. I'm not black or white. I'm just a researcher.
Yeah.
I'm only sharing the information that I have read because the people that are woke can't deal with reality. The people that are woke, you can tear down all of the statues that you want. You will never erase history. We are living in our time the same the same life as the Germans did in the 30s,
Wow.
Casey. We have a everything comes down to greed and power. It goes back for centuries. For centuries. The 1200s, 1300s, 14, 15, everybody, England, France, everybody was fighting each other because power is money. And that's where we're at today. We are living in a time where our society no longer does have a soul because the politicians actually destroy it and take it away from us.
Yes.
So, with the lead up of that, I just wanted to put that into the proper context. So, when people are watching this, they're not saying a politician, I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm just simple little country boy from Waynesboro living his dream in Montana. That's it, bringing truths, which is a hopefully will people will be able to watch. And here's what it comes down to. I know how much more time do we have left? Do you know?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Here's what we're going to look at in the next segment to set that up. Now that we've taken a snapshot of where we are as a society, the next segment's going to be interesting because I'm going to break down the people that are burning down their states, the people that are marching and they're trying to get their message out or whatever. These are two different type profile people that we're going to take a look at.
Good.
But at the end of the day, to know that we as a human being are naturally good people, there has to be a reason why we've become the nation that we become. And I just explained it to you. We have leaders, both sides, my brother,
Right.
that
Oh,
need to be gone.
yes.
You know what I'm saying? I would love to see 30s and 40-year-olds coming in with fresh new ideas, fresh new, just be an American. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, bro. I don't care what color you are. I don't
Right.
care if you're rich or poor. Just be an American and love us because we no longer have that in our country. And I'm so excited to break down in the next segment these two different people and how we, the people, really do have all the power that politicians are terrified of, that our forefathers gave us, not only in the Constitution, but in the Declaration of Independence and all that. We, the people, Casey, you and I, we have all the power over them.
I'm
And we're
so
going to talk
psyched.
about where that is.
I'm so psyched you took this. Excuse me. You took this serious because I agree with you 100%. And I'm just like, what do we do? Because what how you just laid it out, it seems like me and you, our voices don't matter. But I'm so excited to hear where you're going to go with this because what you set up until now, you've explained it so well, where you take us from being a good, innocent, wanting to help people, smiling, all the, and then we have these people that are greedy and are basically, in my belief, they're running everything and have all the power. But in part two, we're going to learn a little different, and we're going to learn about some other people. So great topic, great series, man. I can't wait for it. So let me give you the last half minute here just to wrap up and then tell people how to get a hold of you, please. I can't wait for next week.
I'm hoping that whoever sees this, that they can reach out. P. Thomas Smith Counseling LLC is on my Facebook page. And then P. Thomas Smith Counseling at gmail.com can find me. That's the big thing. I'm getting ready to launch all of our shows. I'm getting ready to send it out to networks and everything else, brother. I'm hoping that Americans come together and we take back our country, because it's our country. It's not theirs. Our forefathers gave it to us. It belongs to us, and we have all the power. And they're terrified of us coming to the realization that we have the power to hire and fire. In the next segment, I'm going to tell people exactly how that looks.
I love it. I love it. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the one and only. That's Tom Smith right there, guys. We'll be right back. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, man.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.